Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ice Time, where we dive into some big ideas around the NHL. I'm Mike Fink, and I'm joined by Sylvie McCarthy, who covers the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Savannah Ghost Pirates, and the ECHL, which is pretty cool at the Hockey Writers, and also does some great, um, does a lot of great work at the NHL and stuff like that. And we've had her on, which is good. Early and before the season started, so it's the first in the middle of the season check in. So this is their first season. I think it's your first season on the beat on the road. So it's a little you're getting a little experience of that. It's my third, so I kind of understand a lot of stuff you're probably dealing with in your first season. But Sylvie, how first off, how's the beat going? Like, how's being boots on the ground coverage? And second, just how you doing in general?
It's good. It's really exciting covering Savannah and obviously like being in the arena for that energy is so cool to just kind of be there live and in person and getting to cover the team and be more up close and personal has been super exciting. And it's just a great time of year because hockey is officially back and we're all super excited because I know during the summer we were all kind of bored.
Yeah, it's great to have hockey back. Actually, one quick follow up on the Savannah Ghost Pirates, because guys, I'm curious about this, and then we'll dive into our big topic. I just want to ask you because the AHL, for example, is a lot of shenanigans or cool stuff they do or random stuff. And Savannah, when you think of Savannah minor league teams, you think of the Savannah Bananas in baseball, which of course are known for their craziness and their antics and all their cool stuff that they do, which is great for the fans. I actually want to ask you if you've seen any cool fan experience things, which I feel like the ECHL, you have to kind of do that to get fans into the door. Not you have to, but like you're really selling hockey in more than one way. You're selling an experience. So I want to ask
Yeah.
you real quickly if you've seen any cool promos or just things in general at the arena, not hockey related.
So I think this Savannah, one thing I love about Savannah, they have such a big following. Like their fans are so loyal, they're so excited every time they come in the arena. And the Ghost Pirates have a really cool like opening that they do before every home game where it's like obviously, there's ghosts involved and like there's pirate ships and it's all like super cool. All the fans have glow sticks. So and it's very interactive all throughout the game, like in between the periods they're always doing like games and stuff with the fans. So it's like super fun. It's such a fun experience to like see, and it's so cool because they really do pack that stadium, like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool to hear that the fans are packing it. Just like that hockey in the South and in Georgia, which is also a different conversation, which
Yeah, yeah.
is really big there. And you realize that
Hmm.
when you cover hockey on the ground, it's my third season in the AHL. You see that
Hmm.
you see the how many fans there are in markets you wouldn't expect, or in places
Right,
that is like, no, there are hockey fans everywhere, or
right.
at least in North America, there are hockey fans, and Europe too. But like, there are hockey fans in places you wouldn't expect, and they are really fans of this team. But we're not
Hmm.
going to talk too much about Savannah, even though I'm sure we could talk for hours about the ECHL or AHL, just create fun hockey stories. We are, though, going to talk because the season is underway and we're kind of a few weeks in. We have a good sample size. We're going to look at star players you aren't watching, or maybe casual fans know about, from a distance, see their stats or once in a while pop up. They're watching them from a distance. They're not watching them, but they should be. Fans should be watching these players. We're not going to, and for this, I don't want to get all creative or try to be a wise guy here and say like, oh yeah, like Arturi Lehkonen, he's having a great season. Watch him, or like we're going to talk about actual like elite. I mean, we're going to talk about elite talents that like for avid hockey fans or passionate hockey fans, they'll know who they are. But these are the players that's like circle them. What you have to watch them, and will and you have to pay attention because they're even if they're playing like that random game out west or wherever it is, you have to follow what they're doing. So I'll turn it over to you, Sylvie, to start, which is the first star player that you're watching maybe, but like fans aren't paying attention to, but should be.
So one of the players that I had on my list, I think he has been underrated for a very long time, and that is Jake Gensel. Obviously, you mentioned I cover the Penguins, and he spent a lot of his career in Pittsburgh playing on that top line with Sidney Crosby. And I think he kind of flew under the radar in Pittsburgh because obviously Sid kind of had all the attention. But I just think that he is so good at, finding those open areas on the ice and making plays. And I think he's very smart. Like he just understands the game so well. And I think last season he's with Tampa Bay now. And I think last season he had a career high, like 41 goals. And this year he has 15 points in 15 games. So he's super dynamic. He's not the biggest guy, but he's not afraid to play a physical game. And obviously he's a very good goal scorer. So I think that he is super exciting to watch, but I think he just flies under the radar so often.
It's so interesting you mentioned him because I didn't have him as a player. I was thinking, oh yeah, we know how good he is, or we've known for a while how good he is because he's
Yeah.
obviously one of these talented players. And when his free agency was approaching, everyone was talking about him, and he was the top trade target. And he ended up
Hmm.
getting moved for a haul, and then he ended up signing for a big deal. But it is crazy because he is an underrated star in this game, and
Hmm.
I think the part that you realize he's underrated, the part that people really appreciate how he plays, and there's probably a lot of players we have on our list that fall into this category, which is they when the Four Nations happened, one of the subplots to it, or one of the other exciting parts of that event was we got to see the star players, the elite talents that people overlook. Obviously, everyone remembers it for the three fights and the McDavid goal and the Binnington saves. So this like the household names that everyone knows about. They stepped up when it mattered. But the event as a whole displayed players that you probably didn't see all the time, and people realized, oh wow, like Jacob Slavin, for example, is better on defense than people give. People didn't realize, like, no, how good he is on defense.
Yeah.
And Jake Gensel, similarly, like I think he scored in the first game against, I mean, he scored in the first matchup against Canada, and he had a great goal there. He played overall very well, and again, it's also not, you're mentioning his physical game. It's the underrated aspects of his game that are really
Mhm.
cool. That, yes, he's a goal scorer. And yes, he knows where his bread is buttered, where like he'll get to the area where the shooting lanes and find the back of the
Mhm.
net there. But he gets those dirty goals too. And that's what makes him
Right.
an underappreciated player. And it's kind of interesting because, yeah, he's one of those players that keeps the Lightning window open.
Right.
And what's the name? And when the Lightning, like we want to write them off and all that. And they're known. It's interesting because they're known for Nikita Kucherov, but it's not just him, not just Gensel is underrated. One of the players I thought about when you mentioned him is Brandon Hagel, another player. And it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. I want to just quickly get your thoughts on Brandon Hagel, just because that's another player. It feels like the Lightning have a few of those.
Yeah.
That we know about, they're part of their core, but we don't realize how good they are. Brandon Hagel, another one who, it's interesting. I just keep thinking they got him for two first round picks, and everyone thought they lost that trade. And it ends up being that he's pretty good there, very good actually. So, your quick thoughts on Brandon Hagel also?
Yeah, no, I think I didn't have him on my list, but he definitely is another one that I think flies under the radar. And Tampa actually, now that you say that, does have a few of those. And I think he is also just so good at finding maybe those open areas. And I think he's a good skater. And like I don't think he gets enough credit either. And you're right. I think like him and Gensel and some of these other underrated players are the ones that keep Tampa kind of in that conversation, because I feel like you just never know kind of with the Lightning what team they're going to be or who's going to show up.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I mean that division as a whole, I mean that Eastern Conference as a whole, it's all jumbled together. There's a bunch of teams in the middle, and the Lightning for a while looked like, oh wow, we're gonna have to write them off.
Yeah.
Their defense particularly looked very concerning, and they found their footing. They're in that mix right now. There's a lot of teams in that mix, so I actually want to pick a team in that division that is not in that mix, that's actually separated itself from the rest. They're starting to separate themselves. And obviously, they're a polarizing team because a lot of people aren't high on them or haven't been high on them since the start of the season. But they have the best record in the Atlantic Division. It's the Montreal Canadiens, and there are a few names I could choose here, which is like they're like the team of underrated players. And I think by human uh, it's human nature to kind of say which underrated stars we pick, like the youngest players in the league, and say like there are those
Mhm.
stars you aren't watching but should be, and that's partially true. I have a few players in mind actually with
Yeah.
that in mind, but the player I actually want to choose he's been around for a while. Everyone knows he's good. I think now everyone's seeing just how good he is. And that's Nick Suzuki. I was thinking, who do I pick? Do I pick Nick Suzuki or Cole Caulfield to talk about? Because
Mhm.
like you could talk about both of them. We could talk about both of them for hours, or you talk about all these underrated younger players like Lane Hutson or Ivan Demidov or Yurov
Mhm.
Slavkovsky. They have a ton of these players, but like I want to focus on Nick Suzuki, who's actually the veteran of that team, as crazy as that sounds, because for years he was seen as, oh yeah, he's the young rebuilding part of that team. I think now he's like 27, 28. He's like in his prime. He's the number one center there. And the interesting part with Nick Suzuki is he doesn't have a lot of goals. I think he only has 2 or 3 goals this season. He has like 18 assists. He makes everyone around him better. And as the top line center on a team with a lot of skill, obviously want to score, but your job is to make everyone around you better. And he kind of knows how to do that. And the other, just one more thing on Suzuki, which is why I'm gonna before I turn it over to you, which is that I like one of the things I've been talking around the league with some of the scouts that like who come to AHL games. I just kind of talked to them about the hockey in general. One thing everyone's saying is Nick Suzuki is a top 10 center in the NHL right now. And some are higher on Nick Suzuki, where he could be on the Canada Olympic team. I know we just mentioned Gensel and the foreign nations and all that stuff where, okay, he'll be on the U.S. Olympic team. But Nick Suzuki, the conversation around him is he's that good where he might be on the Canada Olympic team. Your thoughts on Nick Suzuki being one of those underrated stars? Because we know about him, but like how good he is.
Yeah, so I love that you mentioned him because I had the Canadians. I know we did a show like earlier, I think before the season started, and I had the Canadians as a team to kind of watch because I just like them and I love Nick Suzuki. I think he is very underrated in the fact that I think he's such a leader on that team. Like you said, he's not maybe the top goal scorer, but I think he definitely is a leader, and I think he's such a good decision maker, I feel like. And obviously he's got good speed and agility, and I think he's good at like adapting to whatever's kind of going on the ice around him. So like I didn't have him on my list, but I think that's such a good one because I don't think he gets enough credit for all the little things that he does.
I mean, yeah, because everyone kind of knows he's good, but it's just how good he is. And I think this season, because the Canadians are having one of these great seasons, they have the best record in the Atlantic. Will they at the end of the season? Maybe not, but they're going to be up there. They're going to be certainly one
Mm,
of the best teams. And I think what we're seeing from him, especially since they've become a contender, which last season they had that strong second half to become a playoff team and
mm,
sneak into the playoffs, the final wild card team, and they're heading into this season and they're good. They are a good hockey team. And it's Suzuki working with the line mates he has, where Cole Caulfield is a great scorer on the wing, one of the best scorers in the game. We could talk about him too. Is just like one of these elite goal scorers, elite shooters for sure. One of the best in the game. Slavkovsky is just this power forward, dynamic winger, and then Demidov, who's got all this skill as well. But regardless of who he's playing with, it's I'm gonna make the most of the situation.
yeah.
I'm going to make the players around me better, and he does.
Mhm.
And it's also why like if you look ahead to the playoffs, you realize like no, this team can go toe to toe with some of these other teams that they're probably going to face because
Mhm.
they have your top line, whether it's Suzuki Caulfield or Slavkovsky or Suzuki Caulfield, Demidov, whatever it is, and then and then you have that second line. You have a few forward lines that come at teams, and it's exciting. They're a fun team. We talked about them before the season. It's like, yeah, they're going to be a fun team because their young players are in their primes now, where they're no
Mhm.
longer like those 18, 19 year olds who are kind of finding their footing in the league. No, they're in their primes now, and they have those players, and they have them everywhere, which is exciting to see. I'll turn it over to you because I feel like I'm talking a lot here. Which is what's another underrated or more like yeah, one of those star players that we aren't talking a lot about. We looked into the not just Eastern Conference, Atlantic Division a lot just now. Covered 2 teams, so maybe a team out west, which like it's funny because whenever I make this list or whenever I start this type of podcast, the first teams I look at are out west. So I'm like, these are the teams that we ignore. Slash, my joke that we have a bunch of teams that we realize don't that I feel like don't exist until the playoffs come around, or all of a sudden they're good. But I digress. What's a player, another player you have? Maybe it's out west, maybe it's a metropolitan division, but wherever it is, underrated or overlooked player that we should be paying attention to.
Yeah, so I definitely feel the same way. I forget about these teams out west until like we're doing something like this or we're talking about some of these players. And I had a player from the Utah Mammoth because I like them. I like um kind of their young, I feel like they have so many young players over there who are coming up and are in their prime. And I had Logan Cooley as someone who I feel like a lot of people, unless you're like following Utah closely or you're following the teams out west, you forget about. But I think he's 21 years old. I think he just signed an 8-year extension with them. So he's definitely there for the long haul. He has 13 points in 16 games, I think now this season. So he is so good. I think last season he had like 65 points if that's right. But I think he has good speed, good vision. I think he's a good playmaker, and like I said, he's 21 years old, so I feel like he's just hitting his prime, and I think he's so good on defense too. And I think not enough people are kind of, I mean, like you said, like I think people know he's good, but I don't think he is getting kind of all the recognition he deserves because he's actually, I feel like, really good. He's good on the penalty kill, the power play. So I just think he's all around such a dangerous player.
It's so funny you pick Logan Cooley because I had him also on my list. And I think it's funny you mentioned these teams out west, and I mentioned also, which is that I forget they exist. And for Utah for a while, I mean, well, they've only been around for a year now, but still, when they were at Arizona, it's the same thing where
Yeah.
they were like that peak team that I forget exists until the playoffs are all around or until they're in the news for some reason. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden it's like, all right, they play out west and or they play out in that mountain time zone or whatever time zone
Yeah.
Utah is. I think they're in mountain time. But anyway, they you forget they exist and you're like, all right, no, they're good. No, this season actually, I know they're in a slump right now. The whole team, they're
Hmm.
on a 3 game losing streak as we record this on Monday night, November 10th. But they they're in a 3 game losing streak and they are in a slump. And Logan Cooley has cooled off a bit.
Hmm.
Logan Cooley cooling off a bit, but they are one of these good teams this season, or certainly a team that's going to be in that mix as the season goes on. I think there's obviously room for improvement, but Logan Cooley is is that player that really moves the needle for them. They have Clayton Keller, they have Nick Schmaltz, but the young star to build around is Logan Cooley there. And I think what's fascinating is that this season we're seeing him round like again, it's like those first year, second year players, but this is his third season. We're seeing him
Hmm.
round out his game. I think when he came into the NHL, the thing everyone was impressed about, or the thing everyone saw, was his passing. He's a playmaking center, or he's a playmaking play. He's a playmaker who will find the open skaters, kind of similar to we just talked about Nick Suzuki, who is that player who makes everyone around him better. And you're like, okay, there's star potential here, but how good can he be? This season, I think we're seeing him score more. We're seeing him defend. We're seeing him play all types of games. And for him to be that superstar player, that player that really becomes a building block, the player you can really build a contender around, it changes everything for Utah, a team that is on the rise. They're also no longer rebuilding. They're sort of looking at this we are contending conversation, but now you can kind of add the complementary pieces, the young complementary pieces around him. He's that forward to build around. They don't have that defenseman, in my opinion. I know people are high on Sergachev to be that type of player, they uh they have that forward now to build around. They have a lot of young talent also that's like good complementary pieces. So it's kind of interesting to see where Utah goes from here. I actually want to ask you a follow up on this on that, which is you look at this is what I think about when I hear Logan Cooley's name. The thing I think about nowadays is that 2022 draft class, and I think you look at the top five. I don't want to go like, oh, Lane Hudson should have gone number one because everyone passed on him. I don't really like that idea. A lot of people do that where, oh, seventh round pick. If we were to do this again, he would have gone number one. Well, it's like, okay, yeah, everyone missed on him. But revisiting that top five, which was Slavkovsky goes one, Nemec goes two, Cooley goes three. Shimon Nemec is the Devils defenseman. He went two. Logan Cooley goes three. Shane Wright four. And if you remember, I don't know, it's very vague that draft because it wasn't a generational talent draft. But Shane Wright was supposed to go number one. Everyone had him going one until the draft process picked up, and then he fell in the draft board to four. And then David Jiricek goes five, and David Jiricek is now in Minnesota. And I'm kind of wondering, Logan Cooley going three, do you I'll just ask you quickly, do you feel like the Devils or the Canadians got a great player in Slavkovsky too. Do you think either
Mhm.
of them regret their decision? Devils needed defense and they drafted for need and they didn't just draft the best player on the board. But do you think either of those teams regret passing on Cooley?
Um, I don't think the Canadians do, because they got a really good player, like you said. But um, I think the Devils might a little bit. Of course, like hindsight is 2020, but I think if either one of those teams regrets it, it might be New Jersey, just because I feel like maybe um they could have probably used him more. I think the Canadians were probably happy with their choice, but I think yeah, the Devils maybe had some remorse over that.
I just keep thinking back to now I just keep thinking now of Logan. I mean, they drafted for need, and I think that's the debate all the time is do you draft the best
Yeah,
player on the board or do you draft for need? And Nemec was seen as a very good defenseman coming into the draft, but wasn't necessarily seen as the best player on the board. They needed defense and they drafted for need. And Nemec is playing better this season. He's becoming a regular on the defense, so he's actually good. But I just keep thinking, imagining a I don't even know if it's the top six, the top nine, where you have Jack Hughes, Nico Heischer, Logan
hmm,
Cooley. They're
yeah,
your three forward lines, and Logan Cooley maybe you can move him up you bump him to the wing, but just having the best player, I think that's why it's why if you have a top five pick or even top 10, the conversation really should just be draft best player on the board. That's probably what you should be thinking. Doesn't matter what position they play. You figure out everything after. You draft the best player and figure everything out after. And I think that's a case in point to that, where you just imagine Logan Cooley on the Devils, how good that team would be, how good that
right,
offense would be, and just exciting stuff.
right.
I'll also stick out west and another team. I'll actually quickly throw this. They're another team that's like this list kind of gives us an excuse to talk about some teams that just talks about the exciting, fun teams as well. And I actually just wrote about them, so it's leading right into it, which is the Anaheim Ducks, and they're another team that I've joked about. I forget they exist until
Hmm.
they're all of a sudden they're in the news, and it's like, oh yeah, right, the Ducks are out there. They've been a very forgettable, to be frank, forgettable team, but now all of a sudden they are they have the best record in the Pacific, and they're
Yeah,
going to be in that contention conversation.
yeah.
And there really are two players I could pick, and I'm like, okay, which one should I pick? There's Cutter Gauthier, who's their elite goal scorer. I think he has 11 goals and 18 or 19 games, which is just an incredible pace. And then there's Leo Carlson. And I think it's funny because like we're talking about these young players, and it's human nature to do that, which is what I'm
Hmm.
falling into. And Leo Carlson, it just again like he's one of those players that's like a center who does it all and is doing it all this season. It's just incredible to watch. And you watch like I think the Ducks a few times you get to watch them because again they play late, so they're becoming that late night team for everyone. The few games you watch, Cutter Gauthier might be the highlight reel. He'll be the highlight player. He'll get a good goal from the faceoff dot. Interestingly enough, like per NHL Edge or whatever, it's like the shot tracking stat. Most of his goals, I think all of them come from that left wing side. Basically,
Hmm.
he waits for a shot and he shoots it in and he scores there. But
Yeah.
Carlson's like the straw that stirs a drink there. He's the guy who does it all, and he's the guy who moves the needle and makes them this elite type of team. I want to get your thoughts, Leo Carlson, underrated star. I mean, he's one of those players everyone's starting to realize, kind of like that next wave of elite young talent. But your thoughts on Leo Carlson? Maybe while you're at it, you just kind of talk about the Ducks, a team that has all of a sudden become like must-watch TV.
Yeah, and that's so funny that you mention the Ducks. I have a player from the Ducks as well, not Leo Carlson, but that's a really good one as well. I think has such good like patience. Like he's really good at just being patient. And I think he sees the ice really well. He has such a good vision. And like, yeah, the duck I remember when I talked about the Ducks as well before the season started because I like them and I had a feeling like they were gonna be an interesting team to watch this season. And all of a sudden they're like literally 11-3-1 and they're, in first place in the Pacific. So he's so good. I think he has such a good net front presence and he's so unpredictable. Um, and he's definitely an underrated player on that team for sure. And I think like there's a few for the Ducks that are underrated.
It's so funny because you just mentioned Leo Carlson wasn't that player, and I'm assuming you didn't have Cutter Gauthier. It's considering I just mentioned him multiple times.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I'm starting to wonder which player you have on the Ducks because they have a bunch. They have a lot of them right now, and that's what's interesting is that young again. They're similar to Canadians where it's their young players are starting to enter their prime, and it changes when you're a rebuilding team when those players are in there. So I kind of want to ask you which player on the Ducks do you have that is that player we're not paying attention to? Maybe it's a veteran that like Chris Kreider who's scoring a lot, but I don't know who is that player for you that
So, yeah, so I have Mason McTavish. I really like him. I think like he just got that contract extension. I think he's a big physical player and he had 52 points last season. I think and last season I think he was first in goals and in power play goals. So I think he's a huge asset on the power play. I think he's another reason why they are, you know, on the run that they're on right now. I think he's just really good. I think I like you said, I know people know that he's good, but he's just not someone that we talk about a lot until we're having this conversation about the Ducks. And I think he's one of, for me, the standouts for on their roster.
they Mason McTavish contract is funny. You mentioned that, and the reason I remember it, and the only reason I remember it is because there's some stupid trend that's going on the internet. But basically, he signed a 6 year deal with a 7 million AAV.
Yeah.
So you can connect those two numbers and find out.
Yeah.
Uh, so you probably have heard about that trend that's going on. They played something related to that at the AHL arena, and this tells me I'm old. I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea. Like I didn't get it. Anything what to do with the
Yeah.
numbers. I don't know. There's a team in Ottawa. What's funny is there's a team in Ottawa called the 67s, and I can imagine
Yeah.
they're leaning into that.
Yeah.
That fun that stuff. But anyway, but yeah, talk about the Ducks, and I think one just quick note on the Ducks, why they're again this underrated, why they're as good as they are because they are a rebuilding team, and a lot of teams are rebuilding right now, or not right now, but just in general, these real rebuilding teams that can't take that next step. Everyone looks at the Sharks, and they're exciting, but they're losing a lot of games.
Yeah.
It's they have defense and they have goaltending. Those young defensemen they have, like Jackson Lacombe, Pavel Mintyukov, they have a few of those players, Olin Zellweger. They have those players that
Mhm.
it's like, no, they're also good. They're also now like they've learned the position. They've played enough ice time at the NHL level where they're good defensemen now. And they have goaltending also. Lucas Dostal is one of the underrated goaltenders, and obviously Quenville's gotten the most out of this group. So it's all coming together, and it's really exciting to see for a team that hasn't been good for a while. We're running low on time, so I kind of what I want to do to wrap up is kind of do this quick fire where I'll rattle off a few players, just kind of list like one or two reasons why I like them, saying like, oh yeah, they're the underrated stars. Then I'll turn it over to you if you have any other players on your mind to just kind of quickly uh before we wrap up. I'll go with two defensemen in the Eastern Conference. Jake Sanderson, who in Ottawa, we talked about the Montreal Canadiens, but in Ottawa, people are starting to realize how good Jake Sanderson is. I think his first moments were the Olympics, I mean the Four Nations, and then when he was the fill-in player and he actually played really well there, people realized now how good he is there. Uh, Jake Sand, and then in playoffs he played well there. He's playing. He's a number one defenseman right now. So
Mhm.
he's there. Travis Sanheim in Philadelphia. He's not a scoring defenseman, but he for a while has been a good player on a bad team. If the Flyers are good this season, which there's a chance they are, he's going to be a player to watch. I'll quickly throw out, uh, let's throw out a veteran now, a player that just gets overlooked a lot. Winnipeg Jets, Mark Scheifele, just like one of those. He's been around for a while. Everyone knows he's good. People don't give him enough credit. He's one of those players that is actually, let's talk about the Olympic team, making a case for that Canadian Olympic team just because he consistently produces. He's a player that is a catalyst for the Jets every season that they're good, and he's one of those underrated star players, just really good. I'll turn it over to you now. Quick team players that you have on your mind, just to rattle off a few of them. Any quick thoughts on any of them, and then the floor is yours to if you have anyone that comes to mind.
So I had Ben Kindle on my list. He's obviously with the Penguins and he's was their 11th draft pick this year. He's 18 years old and I think he's shocked everyone with how good he is because nobody was really high on that pick. And then when he made the roster, but he is just so good. I think he plays a good defensive game. I think he's holding his own right now, playing next to Sidney Crosby on the top line. So I definitely think he is one to watch. He's earned his a spot on the top power play for them. So he is, just 18 years old, and this is his rookie season, but I think he'll be one to watch moving forward. And then I just had Jack Hughes from the Devils. I think he's been insane lately, and I know like people know he's good and people are talking about him, but I just had him as kind of somebody that obviously just to pay attention to and to watch as the season goes forward. I think the Devils are going to be dangerous in the Metro, so he was one that I had because he's just so good. He's so good at his skating, his playmaking abilities. He's just amazing.
Yeah, I think your audio cut off a little bit at the end there. So, but basically, you're talking about Jack Hughes, who's just like an
Yeah.
underrated player. So I'll just kind of piece it all together. But yeah, Ben Kindle is funny because we actually talked about him last week on last week's episode as one of the players who's the reason why the Penguins are doing good. Player that
Mhm.
some people saw as a good saw as an elite prospect heading into the draft or someone who could be very good, but not many did. It kind of was overlooked,
Mhm.
but looks like a very good draft pick. Yeah, it looks like he's becoming one of those great young goal scorers in the NHL. And with Jack Hughes, I think the conversation now is more about everyone knows he's good. Everyone knows he's an exciting player. The question is whether he can be a Hart Trophy caliber player, whether he can enter the Hart Trophy conversation. I think he might this season, just the way the Devils have looked, the way he has looked. If he could get to that 100-point mark, which again, the Devils have never had a 100-point player, and he could be that player that can do that. They have a lot of exciting players as well, like Jesper Bratt, Luke Hughes,
Mhm.
Timo Myers found his footing there. So they're an exciting team as well that has a lot of talent there. All right, that is all we got. Sylvie, thank you for joining. I know it's short notice, so I really appreciate you carving out the time from your busy schedule. And so check out Sylvie's great work at the Hockey Writers, the Penguins, Savannah Ghost Pirates, and anything else you have to plug away before we wrap up. I feel like you're doing a lot of great hockey coverage nowadays, which is really exciting to see. Check out all of Sylvie's great work. But anything that I miss or anything
No,
else that you're doing?
I think we've covered everything. I think it's this is like we're getting into a super exciting time because we're like heading into holidays and this is kind of where we're gonna see like who's gonna start getting into that playoff conversation more and more. So it's just super exciting to
Yeah,
be a
yeah.
hockey.
Yeah, this is as they say, like the American Thanksgiving, where it's like if you're not good now, you're not going to be good this
Yeah.
season. And the seasons as a whole just kind of heat up at this time of year as the weather gets cold and the clocks change, which is what's happened recently. So it's just like now it's like okay, the teams have found their footing and teams are realizing whether they're good or not. You're seeing it in
Mhm.
the leagues, and it's exciting to see just how uh yeah, the season's picking up, and it's really fun to watch. And yeah, it's great stuff. So but for now, that is all we got. Once again, appreciate Sylvie on short notice for a bit
Mhm.
for being able to come on, carve the time out of her busy schedule to come on and join. And that is all we got. We hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure to check out all the great work at Sylvie's great work at the Hockey Writers. My work you can find at Hockey Hot Stove. And until next time, make sure to tune in next time for another great episode. Thank you.